Well, hello everyone, and welcome to another edition of the DC Capstone Report, our podcast on Alabama football. Today on our podcast, we're going to take a look in our first segment at the review of the Oklahoma game, Alabama's victory over Oklahoma in the semifinal playoff game. In our second segment, we're going to take a look at our game plan for the upcoming national championship games against the Clemson Tigers, and we'll single out some players to watch in that game. And then finally, in our third segment, as we discuss those players, we'll look at our prediction for how we see the game playing out in the final score. The DC Capstone Report is featured each Tuesday morning on Tide 102.9, The Morning Blitz with Martin Houston. You can listen live at Tide1029.com. Well, it's good to be back on the podcast for another week, talking about Alabama football. Alabama did a great job in the past game as we lined up against the Oklahoma Sooners. Just to kind of review that game, I thought it panned out just like we said it would on the podcast. We predicted that Alabama was going to get up early, and they did so in this game. I thought Alabama was going to come out with a chip on their shoulder and play on defense and on offense that way, and they did just that. On defense, Oklahoma came out on their first possession when they got the ball, and Alabama just held them on a 3-and-out, and I think that set the tone for the whole first quarter of the game. Alabama was hitting on all cylinders. Anthony Jennings got a big sack in that game. Quinnen and Williams were pressuring the pocket, being held almost every time. And Christian Miller gets a big sack to close out that first series. I think that set the tone for our defense. I'm not sure Oklahoma was ready for the defensive intensity that Alabama brought when they came into the game. And that offensive line of Oklahoma that had been so touted coming into this game, if they had not held Quinnen Williams on virtually every time that they had the ball, Quinnen Williams would have been in the backfield every time. I think it had been ingrained in the defensive players' heads how great Oklahoma was and how great a offensive line they had, and it was just Alabama just took the challenge. They were up for the task and showed themselves so good in that first quarter, and that allowed the offense to get the ball and take the field. And there was nothing, I repeat, nothing that Oklahoma could do to stop the Alabama offense. Basically, every time Alabama got the ball in the first quarter, they were marching down the field and just doing a great job of hitting the open receivers, working on the runs, working in the passes, and just over and over and over again, showing how good they were on the offense. And before you knew it, in the first quarter, going into the second quarter, Alabama was up 28-0. Just complete first quarter, going into the first half, domination by the Alabama Crimson Tide. And from that point on, Alabama played from ahead. I think you could say that Oklahoma got their points in the second half because I think Alabama was so far ahead. They relaxed a little bit on offense and defense. But the last time I checked, you play the full game. You can't win the second half and not be ahead on the scoreboard at the end when the clock clicks down to 0 and we still win the game. So I don't know if Oklahoma takes any solace in doing so well in the second half. I think Alabama overall in the game against Oklahoma showed up, did what they had to do, and proved by far they were the best team on the field, both offensively and defensively. The coaches had them prepared to play the game. They were mentally prepared and definitely physically prepared. It was a hot game. It was humid, and it played right into Alabama's hands, being able to go on the field and compete. Mentally prepared because they had heard so much of how great Oklahoma was and how great Kyler Murray was. I think the defense took it personally, and they went right out there and stopped them every time they had the ball in that first quarter. And I just think that was a big lift for the defense. On the other side of the ball, I think the offense was given a big lift because of the defense. And I just think that defense played themselves so much that the offense, when they got the ball, they played from ahead. They felt like they didn't have anything to lose, threw the ball down the field. Tua was almost perfect, hitting every receiver that was open. In the running game was good, getting some good running first downs and touchdowns in that first quarter. But overall, it was a great game. It was a great win for the Alabama team and launches us into the final round, the championship game against the Clemson Tigers this coming Monday night.
You have been listening to the DC Capstone Report. The DC Capstone Report is brought to you each time this week by RollTideBama.com and FreelancePitchers.com.
Well, in the second segment, as we're getting ready for this Clemson game, Lance, I want to kind of give you the game plan for what I think Alabama is going to do in this game against the Clemson Tigers, and then go on in the third segment, talk about some players to watch that's going to implement the game plan, and talk about our prediction for the final score in the game against Clemson. Clemson goes in; they pretty much outdo Notre Dame as much as Alabama did Oklahoma, proving to the nation once and again that Alabama and Clemson are the two best teams and make it to the final. So they'll play for the championship way out there on the West Coast. Teams will fly out there. It's going to be a long trip. I think it'll be into the physical makeup of the game to wear on the teams, both teams in this game. No doubt Clemson comes in with probably the best physical defense that Alabama's seen so far. I think Alabama comes in with the best physical defense that Clemson has seen so far. So I don't think they're going to be able to hide anything from each other. Everybody's looked at the film, and it's going to be man-on-man. Best team wins this game. And I think Clemson has kind of raised the bar with their quarterback play and Trevor Lawrence over last year, having Kelly Bryant when they played Alabama. I think Trevor Lawrence brings a different dynamic to this game in being able to throw the ball down the field. And I think he'll test the Alabama secondary. I give the edge there a little bit to the Alabama secondary simply because that secondary has gelled and come together since the beginning of this season. Last game, Xavier McKinney, Deontay Thompson against Oklahoma showed out well, did a great job and I think they'll have to show up in this game. Patrick Surtain was picked on just a little bit in that game by the wideout from Oklahoma, and they went against him a couple of times, but he did find himself in a good position, just some great throws by Kyler Murray. I look for Clemson to come out and throw against the freshman Surtain in this game as well, but I think he rebounds and has a good game, so I give the edge to the Alabama secondary in this game. I think this game is going to turn on Alabama being able to stop Clemson's rushing game. Etienne, his freshman year, played against Alabama. He knows what he's facing against. He has to come back and prove again this year how good he is, and he is a great back with over 1,500 yards so far during the season. So I think they're going to try to run the ball against Alabama and set up the play-action pass to try to keep Alabama from rushing the quarterback so much. If they can establish a run, it'll be a long day for Alabama, and Trevor Lawrence will be able to pass it when he can without much pressure. But I look for Alabama to stop the run. I think that there's an opportunity for us to go into this game playing our base defense to start out with, stop this run, be able to switch to get into our dime and money packages when Clemson starts throwing the ball. So I look for Alabama to come out and the game plan in this one to try to stop Clemson's run game and make them throw the ball. I know Trevor Lawrence is a better passer, but when you make them and you dictate when they throw the ball, I think it bodes well for the Alabama secondary to know when the ball is coming. So if they can get Clemson in some passing downs early, I know that they're going to have to pass the ball. I think we can get some pressure with our defensive line, our linebackers, and our strong safeties, our money position in this game. So look for Alabama to try to stop the run and then try to pressure the quarterback when Clemson is in those passing situations. Now, on offense, last game I thought we were going to run the ball to set the pass, and we did a good job of doing that against Oklahoma. Clemson has a good run defense. I don't think we abandon the run completely, but I think we go to the passing game a little sooner with some RPOs. We don't take the air out of the ball as much, simply because I believe in this particular game, Clemson has a good defense overall, but I think their weak link in their defense has to be their secondary. In 2 games this year against SEC quality opponents, Texas A&M and South Carolina, the statistics show that Clemson's defensive secondary gave up a lot of passing yards. One to Jake Bentley from South Carolina, over 500 yards passing in that game. And, South Carolina lost the game, but they gained over 500 yards passing by their quarterback. In Texas A&M, that was late in the season, in November, and early in the season against Texas A&M, their secondary wasn't much better and giving up 440 yards to Kelly Mond. So I think Tua has an opportunity to come into this game and have a field day against this secondary of Clemson. So I really look for Alabama's game plan to come into this game throwing the ball off of RPOs to start with. Now, I don't look for as many slants in this game because I think Clemson will be watching for that. They'll be watching to try to break up the slants because they know that Alabama's got a great RPO offense as they ran against Oklahoma almost every time the slant was open. So I look for Alabama to come out and pass into the outside, throw into the wide outs, and really throw into the backs out of the flat. So the game plan overall, I think, for the Clemson game is to throw the ball against a weak secondary for Clemson. And if Alabama can do that and do it successfully by keeping Tua in the pocket, keeping him upright, and giving him plenty of time to throw the ball, I think he can pick this secondary apart. Now, that's going to be based on our offensive line doing their job. So that means that all the offensive line are going to have to block this great big defensive line of Clemson. And I believe that we've got it in us and we can do that. But I think the game is going to be won there in the trenches. If we can block their defense and give Tua time to throw the ball, we'll be good on offense. And if we can stop their rushing game with our defensive front and pressure Trevor Lawrence when it comes time for him to pass the ball, we'll be good on defense. I think it's going to be a tough game, but if our game plan comes out and develops like I think it will, I believe Alabama will come out in the end as the victor. Well, in this third and final segment, Lance, I want to take a look at some players to watch who are going to implement this game plan that we just talked about there in the second segment. First of all, it's got to start on the offense with Tua Tagovailoa. He did a great job and it was very accurate. Came back from his injury well. Looked like he was moving well. He did say after the game he was pretty sore, but I think the rehab regimen they've got him on is caused him to be in good shape for this game against Clemson. So I look for him to watch him early. If he comes out like he did hot against Oklahoma and hitting his routes, hitting his man, being very accurate with the passing ball and putting it in the right position, getting us in the right plays as he did in this game many times against Oklahoma, making the right RPO call, when to pull the ball, when to throw it. If he can do that and avoid mistakes as he did against Oklahoma, then I think it's going to be a long day for Clemson, and he has an opportunity to pick apart that secondary of Clemson and have just as big a game as Kelly Mond and Jake Bentley had against Clemson earlier this year. The other player to watch on offense, in my opinion, is Josh Jacobs. I thought Josh Jacobs played an extraordinary game against Oklahoma, and I know he was up for that game. I thought he was a standout player of the game against Oklahoma and did such a great job. If Tua had not been so accurate in his passing, Josh Jacobs could have won the offensive player of the game. But I think he ran his routes well out of the backfield. He blocked well out of the backfield. He ran the ball with passion out of the backfield. I look for Josh Jacobs to be a player that makes a difference in this Clemson game. I look for him to do well and pass the ball well. Catch the ball well out of the backfield and run the ball well. So I think if Josh Jacobs getting the ball early on in this game, we're going to see him make a difference in the game against Clemson. The other player, I think, is going to be a little bit kind of like the Oklahoma game. We've heard a lot of talk about the wide receivers from Clemson, about how good T. Higgins is and how good Hunter Renfrow is and how good Justin Ross is, being the top player in Alabama last year, going to Clemson to further his career. Well, I believe the Alabama receivers have heard that as well. So I'm looking for Devontae Smith and Jalen Waddle and Henry Ruggs III to make a difference in this game. But the player I believe that's primed for a big game is Jerry Jeudy. He caught a touchdown in the pass and a long pass in the Oklahoma game. Devontae Smith really was the go-to guy early. But I look for Jerry Jeudy to get his hands on the ball early and often in this game against Clemson. Deebo Samuel, the fast wideout for Clemson, had a field day against this secondary with 10 catches for over 200 yards. So I think Jerry Jeudy can have the same impact in this game as well. So can any of the other Alabama wide receivers. But I really believe that Jerry Jeudy on offense is up for a big game. So The players to watch on offense is Tua Tagovailoa, Josh Jacobs, and Jerry Jeudy. On defense, when Clemson has the ball, again, I think it all starts up front with Quinnen Williams. In that Oklahoma game, the best offensive line in college football could not block Quinnen Williams. He got in the backfield when he wanted to unless they held him or unless they double-teamed him. So I look for Quinnen Williams to have a big game, stopping the run, being a run stopper up the middle, and pressuring the quarterback in the pocket from up the middle. You can't say enough about his skills and how good of a player he is. When you watch the defense play, he jumps off the field as being one of the best players to ever play the game in Alabama on the defensive line. And I think he shows up and has a big game against Clemson. The other player to watch on defense is definitely going to be Mack Wilson. And I think Mack Wilson played a great game against Oklahoma. He stayed in his lane. He stayed in his position. He didn't overrun the plays. Did a great job. He has the ability in this game to be a run stopper against the great running back Etienne of Clemson. I think with Quinnen Williams and Mack Wilson up the middle, it's going to be a hard time to run up the middle on Alabama. And I think Mack Wilson has a chance to have a big game, a big play. Also, I look for him to sneak back into a zone defensive coverage on pass plays and have an opportunity to intercept one of those passes that are trying to catch Hunter Renfrow slanting across the middle. So I wouldn't be surprised to not only Mack Wilson to show up in the run game, but also show up as a having a great play, maybe a pick six in this game as he did in last year's Clemson game. And then finally, I think another player on defense to watch is Shyam Carter. I look for them to bring pressure off the corner with a blitz by Shyam Carter. He's had a really good chance in the past to do this, especially when we're in our base defense and we move to a nickel or a dime package. So watch for Shyam Carter to come off the edge and have an opportunity to make a difference to disrupt the passing game. Downfield, Deontay Thompson, with his range, with his being able ball hawking skills. I'm watching Trevor Lawrence. He does throw a great ball and he's accurate, but he has a tendency sometimes to throw the ball up for grabs and miss his receivers. And I look for Deontay Thompson to have a chance to get a turnover in this game. So I think it's going to be big for Alabama on offense to establish the passing game early with Josh Jacobs out of the backfield and Jerry Jeudy downfield. And I think it's going to be big on Alabama on defense to stop the run and make Clemson, force them into passing downs where we can pressure the quarterback. If we do that, I think this game sets up for another great game. I think Clemson is a great team. I think Alabama is a great team. They both are coached by great coaches. I think they both have great talent. What we have to see is that talent translate on the field. And I believe in this game, if Alabama does what I predicted and stops the run for Clemson, forces them into passing downs where we can make them make a mistake, get a sack, get a fumble, get a turnover, but with an interception, Alabama is set up to win this game. Our final prediction is it'll be another shootout down the road. It'll take it on into the fourth quarter, but Alabama comes on top and again is once again national champions with the final score of Alabama 38, Clemson 24.
You have been listening to the DC Capstone Report. The DC Capstone Report is brought to you each time this week by RollTideBama.com and FreelancePictures.com. Be sure to go online and check us out on DCCapstoneReport.com for future updates.